further involvement with sister organizations within the movement, and to act as ambassadors for FEE. You can learn a lot more about FEE's Alumni program. It's one of the tables outside in the lobby. Our panel will be moderated by Jason Riddle. Jason is FEE's Director of Programs and Alumni Relations. Prior to joining FEE, Jason spent 8 years as a management consultant, working with a variety of public and private organizations to enhance their business performance through improved risk management, operational effectiveness, and internal and external control. Jason is the co-founder and the former chairman of the Atlanta chapter of America's Future Foundation. He served as the national chapter coordinator, where he helped to identify and develop liberty-minded young professional leaders across the country. Jason spent 2 years as the co-host and producer of a business talk show in Atlanta, focusing on the principles of sound economics and individual liberty. His unique approach to the news and events impacting the financial markets, businesses, and individuals helped the program become one of the top-ranked weekend programs on AM radio in Atlanta. Jason graduated from the University of Georgia, go Dogs, in international business and a concentration in finance. Jason, welcome, Jason Riddle.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Wayne. As Wayne mentioned, since 1946, FEE has produced thousands of alumni through our educational programs. In fact, now we're proud to say we've had over 10,000 students come through our seminars since starting. And that continues to grow and accelerate. We're hoping to reach well over 1,000 just this year alone. So our network of FEE alumni is growing, and our network is becoming more and more impactful in not only liberty, but lives of people around the world. Through the FEE Alumni Network, we connect seminar alumni who have shared values, shared experiences, and an interest in FEE. And the Alumni Board is one of our best examples of what FEE is doing to connect with our alumni, the students who have been through our programs. Our Alumni Board is made up of 11 members, and these members serve not only as an advisor to us, to our FEE staff, but also as mentors to other alumni in the network. And we certainly greatly appreciate their commitment to FEE's mission, FEE's vision, and everything that they do for us. Today we have the opportunity to hear from 4 of our members of the Alumni Board. We have Clark Rupert, Stephen McCaskill, Gonzalo Schwartz, and Romina Baccia. And they want to share with you some of their most memorable FEE experiences and talk a little bit about what FEE has meant in their lives. So instead of reading long bios, I wanted to make this a little bit more conversational and have each of the FEE Alumni Board members here on our panel introduce themselves. We're going to have about 25 minutes of panel discussions. We're going to open it up for a few questions to the audience, and then we're going to have Wayne come back up here and transition us to lunch. So I just want to be very clear, I'm not standing in the way of you in lunch. It's actually Wayne who's standing in the way of all of us in lunch. But maybe Romina down on the far left, you want to start us off?
My name is Romina Baccia. I'm the Herman Fellow in Federal Budgetary Affairs at the Heritage Foundation. I'm originally from Germany, and other than being connected to FEE, I've also done IHS seminars, and I was a Charles Koch Associate.
Great, thank you. Hi everybody, I'm Clark. I'm the Vice President at Students for Liberty. I wasn't as lucky in college. I didn't find FEE until after I graduated. But when I did, it was a life-changing experience. It really motivated me to go down the path I'm currently on. And the work we do now at Students for Liberty is largely targeted at finding these students and then pushing them in the direction of FEE to further deepen their education with these ideas. And it's a real pleasure to work with them every day to make that happen.
Hi everyone, my name is Gonzalo Schwartz. First I wanted to thank Jason, Richard, Wayne, and Larry for inviting us and for asking us to be part of the board. It's an honor. And I'm currently the Director of Grants and Awards at the Atlas Network. I've been there for 5 years now. I'm originally from Uruguay, which is South America. We're just 3.5 million, so we know more by the quality of people than the quantity, honestly. So, and I did my undergraduate studies in Bolivia, and then I came to the U.S. to do a master's in economics at George Mason, which is where I started learning the ideas, and then FEE was a great complemented a lot of what I learned in George Mason.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen McCaskill. I am the CEO of Amagi Metals. Amagi sells physical precious metals, gold and silver, and we are a very big advocate of sound money. We also mine cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. And my long-term goal is to facilitate and help with the denationalization of money.
That's great. For our first question, Stephen, let's start with you, and I'd like to hear from each of the panelists. If you wouldn't mind, just talk to the best of what you can remember, your experience at a FEE seminar. What was the seminar like? What did the FEE experience mean to you? And maybe in particular, what did you get at a FEE seminar that maybe your high school and college peers didn't have the opportunity to experience?
Absolutely. Well, I took my first FEE seminar 5 years ago, the Advanced Austrian Seminar. Back then, I suppose 10 years ago when I started increasing my knowledge, my economic understanding of the world, I was the only other people that I could connect with were on the internet. There was no one in my town. There was no one around that I could discuss these ideas with. And so attending my first FEE seminar really opened up my eyes to see that there are other like-minded people out there, that I'm not the only one, that there are people like me from all walks of life who have the same understandings. And so it was great to connect with these people, to feel almost human, because there are other individuals who have the exact same understandings as I did. So it was great to network. It was great to be part of this community and make friends, and many of which I'm still friends with today. So it was a great opportunity for me.
Well, during my undergraduate studies, as I was mentioning, I did in Latin America. The most free market we got in university was a young fellow named John Maynard Keynes. That was the most free market we got. And we were told that it was all handwork, but it made a few tweaks here and there. So I really didn't get a lot of, didn't know almost any of the authors before I came to the US, before I started at George Mason. So when I started there, it was a real eye-opener. My first classes were with Russ Roberts and Pete Becker. So if you don't get the ideas or understand them after that, you should just lose all hope and move to Russia or something. But so after that, with that, I went to my first FEE seminar. I was also the Advanced Austrian, and I got to see some of the people that I admired through the readings, got to see them in person. And one of my favorite economists is Israel Kirzner, so I saw him there. And I think he was a rock star. Obviously, he didn't have a guitar at that moment, but it was a great moment to share also with people. I mean, back home, we really we don't have this type of seminars, we don't have this type of gatherings. Thinking differently about these ideas that can get you in trouble in your classes. So really didn't have an open forum for discussion. So it was great to be part of a community, as Stephen said, in FEE, and sharing that with the professors that were guiding posts for us, and with other alumni or people that share the same ideas.
Great, thanks. So as I said, I did not find FEE until after college, but I was lucky that I did. I was a history major at the University of Michigan, and after I graduated, I always wished that I had taken more econ classes. Now, in retrospect, I'm kind of glad I did it, because then I found FEE, and then I got to learn about how economics works. And I think that was a much more thorough, education of the ideas. But to touch on a few of the real benefits of FEE, as was mentioned, that feeling of community, that's really irreplaceable. To come out of that context, we feel like you're pretty strange. To grow up as a libertarian on a college campus can be a very lonely environment. And I think just get the chance to step away from that for a while and engage with your peers, who share these beliefs and are kind of going through the same process you are. I think that's really meaningful. And just the inspirational way that the ideas are presented, I think really matters. FEE has always had just this great demeanor, being very optimistic, very positive, very hopeful feeling I had coming away from it was, times are tough, yes, and the government's doing a lot of bad things, but there is hope. In spite of all this, things are still getting better. And if we are just, striving every day, to live up to the best ideals, things are going to work out pretty well. And that's very motivating to go out there and fight more.
Fee truly inspired me, educated me, and connected me. Like I said earlier, I come from Germany. I grew up in a very conformist public school environment, and I remember exercises of building our visions of the utopias that we would establish if we could, and it was just a very different environment. So when I came to the US, one of the reasons I wanted to study here was because in Germany you had to decide very early on what you wanted to be. You're 18, 19 years old, coming out of high school, and you go on that track in university, and that's the track you're on. If you want to switch, do it all over again. So it's very difficult to explore. So that was the reason I came here. My first semester at George Mason University, I didn't really know anybody. I didn't really know what economics was about, but I was interested in doing it to sort of learn technical skills. And Fee was hosting a weekend seminar on cosmopolitanism, which piqued my interest. So I went to this seminar, and the first lesson I learned was that foreign aid is not how we make other countries more prosperous, it's trade. And that just immediately clicked for me, and I was like, yes. And that evening I went home with a copy of the law, and I read it on the train ride home, and that was truly my aha moment, and I felt like I had found the place that I could now call home. So Fee really inspired me for freedom, educated me in the philosophy, and connected me to the movement, and really helped me be where I am today professionally.
Thank you for that. I would next like to ask, what about the Fee experience? What about your involvement with Fee has been the most valuable for you personally? And Gonzalo, you can start us off.
Sure. My experience, I have the privilege in my work in Atlas that I work alongside a great individual. Most of you might know him, Alex Chafuen, and he's a great student of the think tank movement. And he likes going back to history, and I don't know if he inspired me to do it or just caught on to it, but I'm always interested in learning on whose shoulders are we standing on, who were there before that made the impact for the movement. So with that, the value that I see in V is how, as Larry mentioned before, was one of the first think tanks, how they motivated him through Leonard Reed and through the institution itself to spur the free market movement and started think tanks all over, first the US, obviously, and then the world, with the experience that have the hero Manuel Ayau, through his experience with Leonard Reed and how he inspired first the think tank CES and then the university, or our own founder Anthony Fisher, who after coming or talking with Leonard Reed, started the IEA back in the UK, and I can go on and on with his stories. And another person that I was lucky to meet in my life and to work with was Leonard Leach, who passed away last year. And I have a good story about Leonard and Fee that I want to be sharing in this sense, that in this same context, that a few months before he passed away, he called me and asked, I don't know if we were talking that day before about this topic or not, but he asked me, can you get me an article that I'm trying to find? And he wasn't very good friends with Google, so I wouldn't think he would have known how to find it, but he asked me, I need a Fortune article that was placed in Fortune in 1964 about Brazilian business. And the article was about how these Brazilian businessmen were inspired by the ideas of Fee by coming here to the US, inspired to start a revolution in the 60s in Brazil. So they were lobbying government through their business associations to create more free market reforms. I think that'll fall through later, but the point is that Leonard pointing me to that it shows the great amount of the institutional strength that Fee had back then that enabled other organizations to grow. And I think in a way they were first back then in starting the movement, and I think in a way they're first now as in the first people that high school students and people who haven't never heard about the ideas will get to. So in a way, first back then and first now. So that's what inspires me to do what to believe in the mission, to start it and to pass it along to other people that sense of institutional building and as a movement.
Yeah, again, kind of sticking with the theme of inspiration, I think there's two things that change the world, people and ideas. We obviously are very solidly grounded in the ideas, but one of the reasons that it makes such a difference is because also has wonderful people. And I'm here today because of Larry Reed. He's the one who inspired me to go down this career path. I wasn't at a FEE event, but I remember very distinctly, we were out in the woods of Canada at this camp out kind of libertarian, retreat out there. And Larry, of course, drives to Michigan to speak at this thing because he'll go speak anywhere to people who are passionate about liberty. And I met Larry a few things before, but this first time that I saw him with his speech about the blinking lights in Poland. Who here has heard that speech? Gives it once in a while, and I can very, very vividly remember sitting there in the audience in this kind of field meadow by a pond in Canada, as the sun setting, watching Larry give this speech. And I had been involved in liberty. I ran my campus libertarian clubs at school and all that, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I remember sitting and listening to him give that speech, and I said, yes, this. I want to do that. I want to help people fight against injustice around the world. I want to help them fight against oppression. Now I'm here doing that today. And I work at Students for Liberty. Now we help students in Latin America, Africa. We just had our first conference in India, places where people are fighting against real repression, where the battles they're fighting are for their civil liberties and for free speech and for democracy and the right to start a business, very basic rights. And that's incredibly exciting and incredibly rewarding. So I have the people for me to thank for that.
My question really was, what makes countries and people prosper? And I found that answer at that FEE seminar, and it made me read a lot, and I read lots of Hayek and Mises. It really put me on my path where I am today. I wanted to learn more about these ideas, I wanted to learn more about economics, and I wanted to tell other people about it. And that's what I do today in large part because I encounter FEE.
Well, FEE impacted not just me, but my family, and more than one generation. My dad came across FEE in the 60s and started getting the Freeman subscriptions. And this was in South Africa, where there was a lot of oppression and a lot of price controls and whatnot during that time. And so my dad was participating in the creation of the Free Market Foundation in the 70s, and received a lot of his publication, or a lot of material from FEE. And this was before the internet. And so FEE was a beacon of light, a beacon of liberty to not just people within the United States, but globally. And as things got progressively worse in South Africa, my family decided to move to the United States. And I remember we lived upstate New York, and driving to the Irvington Mansion for the first time when I was 13. And that was very vivid for me, and almost like a light switch, because I realized what my dad had been doing, what my family had been doing, what people all around the world are doing every day, fighting for individual liberty. And I think that kind of created a road for me for the next few decades about what my path was going to be, what I wanted to do, and that was to advance liberty and promote sound money as much as possible.
Very good. Well, in the interest of time, unfortunately, we're not going to have time for audience questions right now, but I certainly encourage you over the rest of the afternoon, if you get a chance, please do talk to Stephen Gonzalo, Clark and Romina, because they all have very fascinating stories. I did want to give each of our panelists very, very brief time for closing thought, or maybe words that you'd like to leave the audience with before we turn things back over to Landon and break for lunch.
We actually do have like 10 minutes for questions. If anyone in the audience wants to ask.
We've got time for questions.
No one's going to ask a question, I will.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Tillman, you have the floor.
Clark, what were you doing out so late last night?
I ran into my friends smoking cigars out on the patio, so discussing very deep philosophy of life.
I'm just so disappointed you ended right when I was rolling in. I hope that was just a coincidence. So I have a 16-year-old daughter. I just sent her an email. She's getting indoctrinated, educated at my dinner table every night. What would you suggest I say to her when I see her tomorrow about why she should get involved with FEE and come to one of the summer seminars? Any one of you, or all of you?
Oh, I asked you what she's already interested in.
Business and entrepreneurship, I've noticed there are two.
Well, there you go. As great communicators at FEE teach us, it's helpful to start with what people are already interested in. So, since you already kind of have that hook to work with her, tell her this will give her much greater insights into what that actually takes to do that. If she wants to start a business someday, it's helpful to know how the economy works. So if that is one of the things she's considering for a life path, this is definitely something that she could do, to figure out if that's what, is really her dream.
I would say that she should try it out and do it now, because then after you get into college, your mind get a little bit more polluted, and if you don't get the right ideas first, you're not addressing it.
Tell her not to get polluted in college.
Just in college, before that enrollment. But yeah, I would say that if you learn the right kind of economics now, and then she'll have a better view of the world and a better understanding of phenomena that might not be explained at the university. I mean, personally, as I mentioned, in Latin America, we don't have any interest. So when I came here, I thought all of the events, IHS, everything was great, and I think that something that people here should take for granted and be sending their kids and recommending to everyone, because it's an experience that really shapes you, and if you're at this young age, even more so. So I would say that.
I would just add that it's very intellectually stimulating to go to a FEE seminar, but it's also a tremendous amount of fun. So you're getting that bread and butter knowledge that will help guide you in your professional life and in your personal life, and will also connect you to like-minded individuals, and you can follow their path for many, many years, and perhaps you can help each other out down the road. Together we can create a better world.
But I also think that when it comes to suffering, it can, if the person who's suffering is of the right character, it can be a character builder. It can be something that in many cases, people who have grown and improved and gotten better only because they endured the crucible of suffering. I would never advocate it for anybody, but I applaud when someone comes out of suffering and puts two and two together, learns from it, and turns it to good advantage. I think that's a powerful combination. Certainly, if you suffer the absence of freedom, you may know better firsthand the importance of it than those who've always taken it for granted. There are endless examples of that. So, yeah, suffering can, in the long run, both build character and make you a stronger person, more effective spokesperson for the things you suffered for.
And I guess it's important to say, too, that suffering can also break a person and make someone of seemingly good character lose their way, and that seems to point to the fact that there's definitely that element of choice in all this.
That's right. One of the great survivors of the Holocaust, Viktor Frankl, wrote a book called, what's the title?
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning, yes, and on this very subject, and how he turned even the most incredibly awful, unspeakable conditions that he endured into an opportunity for introspection and improvement and growth. He turned it into a learning experience, and he was ultimately a better man perhaps because of what he endured. that takes character, and I admire that. That's why at FEE we love to tell stories, especially to young people, of people like Viktor Frankl and others who've endured and suffered on behalf of sound principles. They are so admirable and people we should emulate, no question.
So what are some of the things FEE's doing today to sort of promote this message? And are there any success stories you can share with us about that?
The message of character and liberty and the fact that they're two sides of the same coin in many respects is infused into everything we do now at FEE. You see it on the website. You see it in the articles that we post. You see it in themes at seminars, the things that speakers talk about at our programs. It isn't the only thing we talk about, but it's core to it, because we want young people to understand that liberty is in fact a lofty calling. It really is. It's something that should summon forth a desire to set new standards, high standards of your personal character. They go hand in hand. And if you can inspire young people to think of liberty as the other side of the character coin, as a very high, lofty, admirable calling, I think you've got the likelihood of keeping them on our side and keeping them a lifelong advocate for liberty. If you just sell liberty on the basis of you should be for it because it produces the most stuff, free economies do better than unfree. And that's demonstrably true. It should not even be subject to dispute. But if that's all you do, if you use that one argument to convince people that you should be for liberty and free markets because they produce the most stuff, well, then your converts are going to be vulnerable to the first guy who comes along and says, but it isn't fair. And if you just put me or people, my friends in power to redistribute income and push people around a little bit, we could make things better off. And off we go down the path to the destruction of our liberties in our society. So I think just infusing that message across all that we do has been profoundly effective. It resonates with kids. It's one of the talks that gets students up on their feet and applaud it, because it's not enough just to tell them that they're going to inherit an $18 trillion national debt as a result of bad economics. They're going to inherit that because of lousy character. And that this is something they should not want to inflict upon their children. And the time to work to prevent that is now. And that building character is something that ultimately you'll never regret.
And this message is very apropos, because one of the main criticisms of this capitalistic perspective is, well, your message is entirely about getting the state out of the way. It's all about non-intervention, right? And when it comes to the tough questions about, well, what do we do about that suffering person over there? What do we do about that poor person over there? The only thing we have to say in response to that is, well, we just don't want the government to do anything about it. And it sounds like there's a lack of compassion. But what you're saying is that if we are people of character and if we emphasize that aspect of liberty, we'll actually want to come up with ways to resolve these sorts of things. And we won't just say the state can't do it correctly, but we'll say we can do it better on our own.
Oh, you're so right, TK. You can't have a message that is chronically and incessantly negative. You can't be, everything's going bad, or the government is always the problem. You can turn the tables in the thinking of many people and start talking positively about what free people can accomplish. I mean, it's incredibly exciting. What free people can do, empowered with good character and the freedom to exercise. They solve problems better, faster, in a more lasting way than any government bureaucracy can. So at FEE, we like to talk not just about the bad things that government may be doing, but we like to talk about the good things that good people are doing. And so as to encourage more of it, so as to make people sit up and notice and realize, wow, they don't have to focus on a distant politician to fix the problems. There are good folks in their very midst that are doing miraculous things. They need to learn more about those things.
Larry, I could ask you questions all day, but I want to share you with the audience a bit. I know we have some questions coming in from the internet, and I know people out here are probably chomping at the bit to ask you questions of their own. So let's take some time to open up for a Q&A. I'm going to pull out my phone, not because I'm interested in checking ESPN.com, but because I am going to have the questions here. So I'll start off with one question that comes online, and then we can sort of get ready for the audience. One question is, how do you recommend I talk with my friends about character without preaching to them?
Yeah, good question. And the person's onto something because if you come across as preachy, I think you're going to defeat your purpose, especially if you're talking to young people. I find that the best way is to talk about real people who have been examples, such as some of those we've talked about today. Use real stories to underscore the character traits you want to focus on. I mean, if you want to stress courage and compassion, well, telling the Nicholas Winton story does it without having to say to somebody, you need to be more compassionate, you need to be more caring. You tell a story of a remarkable living individual who achieved a wonderful thing through private, personal initiative. That's a very effective way, I think, to reach people. You can't do it if you're preaching and lecturing.
That reminds me of an Indian proverb that says, once you cut off a person's nose, there's no use in giving them a rose to smell.
Yeah, good way to put it. I'm going to use that. That's a Facebook post.
All right, questions from the audience? We have one here.
Yes, you used a few times the term responsible person in a free society. For a free society, does everyone have to be responsible?
Does everyone have to be responsible for there to be a free society?
Yes.
I would be the first to argue that you're always going to have some bad guys. You're always going to have irresponsible people. But the weight of humanity must be on the side of responsibility. The more irresponsible people you have, the more that shows up in the form of bailouts and expectations that the rest of the world owes you a living, and that there's nothing wrong with taking it or hiring a politician to take it for you. I don't think a society can remain free if large numbers of people go down that path. I don't know what the critical numbers are, but I know that the more people are responsible, the more likely you can retain your freedoms.